Good morning, Smite fans. It's week 4 of the Swiss stage. EMEA starts us off. It's Malum, it's Gormizer. It's October 19th, and we've got gaming ahead of us. And we're feeling great. Gore, I know we are as
Oh
ready can
yeah.
be for action today, for sure. We've been looking forward to these matchups. We got the build up for the matchups. It's kind of as good as things can get, and I'm pumped up. EMEA had some changes for their open bracket. They've had their teams excited for more Swiss. I Things can't get any better.
Yeah, no, it's one that I'm really excited to see, especially because as we like you said, I mean, as we continue to move on, the competition only gets fiercer, right? You really get down to the nitty-gritty in these last couple of weeks because for some of these teams, the pressure is either mounting up, especially like if you're in the 1-2 area, or if you're in the 2-1, while you technically have that maybe slightly, well, I guess slightly less pressure right now, it means that you kind of have that pressure on you to perform and make it happen.
Yeah, exactly. The pressure is on. Everything's really starting to mount up for sure. But better stuff to touch on before we do get going as well. So you should see it pop up on your screen of what we're kind of touching on early on, and that is open brackets are going. And North America, their open brackets are pretty pumped up. LATAM, we talked about a ton over the last couple of days. APAC's been going crazy, but cannot forget Brazil. Challenge Los Leal, challenge Malibu in LATAM, challenge Bruto X Fire AMV in Brazil. Sign up for the open bracket now and get in there. Try to win some cash, try to win some diamonds, and of course, play Smite 2. And well, being an open bracket, that means I got to play Smite 2. So here's how you get into Smite 2. Exclamation point access in the Twitch chat right now. You'll see a link pop up, put in the code Smite 2 Esports, and you are playing Smite 2, which makes it easy to enter the open bracket, Core. I mean, if we weren't playing, I know you and we'd enter the open bracket just for the diamonds. We'd take our round one
Yeah.
L and go on.
Oh yeah. Look, you come in, you get a little bit of diamonds, like even if I'm getting smacked around, that's going to be worthwhile. But then the thing that you had kind of looked at and mentioned, but like if you look at Brazil and you look at APAC, there's, cash prizing on the line if you do really, really well, as well as LATAM, like, and North America, both still being in a position to come to land, to be able to make
Yeah.
it to Vegas potentially. Like, I can't think of like if your worst case scenario is, hey, I get some diamonds, and your best case scenario is, oh, I have an opportunity to either get some actual like cold hard cash or to Vegas. You're absolutely right. I'm doing exclamation point access and getting into the game, dude.
100%. See, we're on the same page. We'll take our L and our diamonds, and we'll do it while smiling. Well, let's lots to talk about, lots to smile about, but all things start with the meta, and the meta's had some changes coming into today. Competitively banned are the new characters, so you won't see any Hercules or Danzaburo this weekend, but Amaterasu is up and available for play, no longer competitively banned. And of course, another big change alongside that, and these kind of flow together a little bit, especially for your ADCs in particular. Gods no longer have base strength, it's now replaced by basic attack power. And minions, their spread, the laning with them, it's revamped. So autos feel a little bit different. The carries are bringing a new vibe to the battleground.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how the last two of these, like minion spread and laning, and specifically the basic attack power versus like a base strength. I'm really, really curious to see how that affects builds and who, if at all, it affects is getting like prioritized and picked and picks and bans, things like that. Because it does feel like something, and admittedly, I haven't gotten to have as much time to like really grind it out and see all of the differences. So I think it's going to be a little enlightening to see what the people who, the guys are living and breathing scrims are doing. And again, if it changes some of the priority for a few of those gods, because like we've kind of gotten to the point where there were a few, carries that were shining above and beyond all the rest. And more often than not, you could say, well, there's probably going to be like a Neath this game, and probably going to be a Jingwei this game. And then if you got anybody else, it was kind of a surprise. Like your Kernanos's Soul from 5 weeks ago when she was actually relevant. Like, yeah, that's the one that I'm really interested to see is what kind of changes and if it brings anybody kind of back into it and maybe knocks the top two down a little.
Same thing, Soul. That's who I'm looking for today. Where does she jump up? And maybe even some crazy ADC, some Bologna, some Amaterasu. But we got to start off things simple. We got to get our bearings first. So let's take a look at the bracket and see how things are shaping up for today. We're at the 2-1 and the 1-2 phase. So still from here on out, it's everybody has a chance to either go down to that last chance qualifier or advance to the playoffs. It's a bit more stressful for everybody going forward, and it all leads into the next phase of the competition, which will be 2-2, where that's the full stress. But for right now, you're on that red side. You got the red colored bracket. You're fighting to keep away from the last chance qualifiers. And if you're on that yellow part of the bracket, you are fighting to sit comfy in playoffs and wait. And well, Malum, who is fighting? Well, I've got a schedule that answers that exact question of who is fighting. And starting off, we got Bills Goons versus the Scorps. That's our 11 a.m. matchup. Almost at 11 p.m., but I don't think anybody can handle that. I'd be asleep like a baby. I've been old man hours lately.
There is some region, and it's not quite like Australia, and I think it's a little more Western than Japan, but there is a region of the world that is exactly 12 hours ahead, and it will be 11 p.m. And if you're watching from there, you're set.
Yeah, exactly. I've been old man hours lately, so I would be gone. Tythonic versus Yodi Gang is our 1 p.m. matchup for today, and tomorrow 1 p.m. is Mockingbird versus Smoke Break. And other side for those 1-2 matches, Project Win, Threat Level Midnight, an interesting one for sure. I'm looking at a Threat Level Midnight and kind of get back to where they've been. Titans Reloaded, Chase the Enemy will be broadcast at 11 a.m. and then Old and New versus DDK, and that wraps up your EMEA schedule for this weekend, but still another region that we're broadcasting to check out. Let's look at the schedule for North America. Starting off with 2-1 matches. You see Food Drive for Glow versus Name in Progress. Food Drive trying to rebound after that Scrumptious matchup for sure. But also, speaking of Scrumptious, I'm looking at Garth's Goblins versus Scrumptious at Sunday at 5 p.m. is one I'm kind of excited to see.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of matches, and realistically, it's both of the, I guess, Sunday 1 p.m. for EMEA, and then the Sunday 5 p.m. matches maybe are the ones I'm the most excited for.
Yeah.
I would have put Alec Hate Club and Borscht maybe up at the very top of that list until I was informed that it is not Fine Okay Alec that they are hating.
Yep,
and
it's
one
Cosmic
of their own.
Vibes
It's
on Alec Hate Club.
Yeah. So if I can convince myself that their name is still specifically about a team member of Borscht, I think that gets a lot spicier. I also think it's going to be a fun matchup to watch because I didn't really expect Borscht to be in that kind of position, so I'm really curious what it's going to be like. But I do think that the last matchup and all, I mean, they say save the best for last, right? And I think each one of those is a very, very competitive and should be some really, really fun to watch matches.
I think the funniest thing to hope for would be that Borscht doesn't know that anyone in Alec Hate Club is named Alec, and they take it personally. I think they do, because I know Rat Milk is familiar with some of the players on Alec Hate Club, but
yeah,
way more fun to imagine that even Final K is like, whoa, what's up with that?
Final K sees their match and they're like, whoa, guys, wait, like a whole team? Really? Like you had to do that?
All 5 of them? That's crazy. Well, it won't be crazy. Well, maybe not. We'll see. Picks and Bans is up for the first game we're broadcasting today between Bills Goons and the Scorps. So let's start picking, let's start banning. And the first one's up. There's a lot of different routes we can go. There's been so many balance changes. There's characters back in like Amaterasu. So there's a lot of different paths you can go. We've seen the Baron. We've seen Odin. Yamojo is popular as well for a bit. But I'm kind of with you in looking at ADC's score.
Yeah, and really, I think the thing that stands out to me for it is, well, I was going to say, if it escalates priority for others, but I'm guessing the first thing that we get answered is that it escalated priority for one that was already prioritized. I mean, Jingwei, like, what, 3-4 weeks ago was the top pick. It felt like everybody was going for her first, and it was kind of hard to argue against her because she just would out-crit you. She would do everything in her power to ruin your existence. And her scaling early on was really solid. So to see her banned at the very beginning, to me, kind of says that not only is she still strong, that maybe she got stronger and is someone that needs to be dealt with a little sooner, or someone that they didn't want to deal with. But it also does scream this, because we last week we're looking at Baron, Fenrir has always been in that conversation. Anubis in EMEA, I think at the beginning of last week and maybe the beginning of the week before, was high prioritized. He is here, but I might call that a little bit more of an outlier, because it's the other guy that, the Fenrir and a few other gods that have been like that #1 pick. And so to see Bills Goons ban Jingwei and then lock in Anubis tells me they have a very specific strat in mind that they're going for, and they needed that mage. And as we saw Yesterday in one of your clips, and also check out the This Week in Smite video that's going to come out presumably on like Monday or Tuesday on the youtube.com/SmitePro, because sometimes Anubis just hits really well and stays alive.
And he won't die, yeah.
It's quite simple, really.
He will not die. The lifesteal is just too strong for him. It's kind of insane what Anubis is able to pull off at the moment. He's combined with a Bacchus Neath, which to me, I mean, Bill's Goons, they've got such blow-up potential. We've seen the World Weaver almost somehow feel more global than it does in Smite 1, just with how teams have been utilizing it and how much damage it can do. When you combine it with a Loki and a Bacchus, your backline is just never going to be safe
no
if you're the
dissenters, no ounce of treachery.
Yeah, this is a very dive. I mean, look, you add Mordred onto that. I mean, Loki, Bacchus, Mordred.
That's crazy.
If you are a carry on Scorps, you should be scared. This is not a comp that was made to be friendly with you. This is not a comp that was made to allow you to even dictate the pace of your own team fight. This is a comp that was made to disrupt your fight. It's got good counter engage, and it's got just good blanket engage as well, right? Loki's really good at slipping through to the backline. We've seen a lot of plays, and looking at it like Hecate with some shielding. Fenrir luckily is able to trace out the stealth with the brutalize now, right? So that feels pretty solid. And with Athena having some more AoE centric or abilities, maybe you can counter a lot of that, have a little bit of heal. The Ama is going to be the wild card, because last week and why she was disabled, right? She was dealing way more damage than she was intended to the point where I had some fun games where I was getting one shot by her too. It was very interesting times. But to see what she's going to be able to provide, because I feel like we've seen Amaterasu's, in our own games and in ranked and things like that, where you could probably shut down a lot of this dive with a really well-placed ult. But your ult takes a little bit of time to go off. Is there going to be too much damage in the time that it takes for that stun to go through? That's kind of where I'm curious to see how Scorps are going to handle it.
I do like it's weird. Usually we wouldn't say that there's flex potential, but with Fenrir and Athena, I almost feel like there kind of is. We've seen a lot of Fenrir support, for better or for worse, and we've seen a lot of Athena jungle, which usually has been for the better, especially in EMEA. So I do think that there's some potential there for that to be flex. At first, I was even wondering if we might see the Amaterasu go ADC, because I know a lot of teams have been using that in scrims, both in North America and EMEA. But with the on her locked in, I feel like that falls a bit to the wayside. So I am with you in the idea that the Amaterasu is the character to watch. Is she building full intelligence? Is she going more bruiser? I know we even saw on Titan Talk recently that one of the highest winning builds you can go right now is an intelligence bruiser build for Amaterasu, but not as many players are actually building it. So if you use that math, it could be really interesting to see her.
Yeah, and like you said, they have a lot of flex potential, because like this is where it gets really interesting and kind of curious over the last couple of weeks. I would maybe say that I've preferred this Athena not as a support. I feel like she's flourished more in other roles, and admittedly, I think if you're going to take her, presumably you're either throwing her in the jungle or support, just somewhere where you can really utilize the global presence. So if she's not going jungle, let's say you're sending Fenrir or maybe even the Ama into the jungle, I want to see her have as much of a presence as possible.
Well, we got game time on our hands, and we've got 5 members waiting in Stealth Grass. So Malum, Gore, Doug, EMEA, Week 4, we're ready. Swiss, will they find anybody? They got nobody near them, but they're set up and they're ready for it. And we've seen this a few times, Gore, where teams are really looking for that early pick to set themselves up right. Another, maybe spotted. Oh boy, here they come. Oh, wow. Works out perfect. The 1 millisecond moment of another turning to the side worked out.
He is very, very, very fortunate that he was both looking where they were coming from, but also that they didn't decide to continue to go in. If I'm being completely honest, I know this is a competitive setting, and I know what this will sound like, but I probably would have been tabbed out. I probably would have been like setting up like Spotify, looking for music or something. Like I would have not been paying enough attention to catch that out, and I would have died, but it would have been right as I tabbed back in and been like, oh wait, what? There's 4 guys on me all of a sudden. So it is, again, very fortunate for him to be able to spot that and to control it. But also, it just kind of shows something. I feel like it got very commonplace to see like 5v5 fights, a lot of like explosive action in the first literal minute of the game. And then these teams kind of got a little more used to that. Now it's expected that someone's going to try to make that play. And because of that, nobody gets to end up making that play. Everybody's kind of either you see two ships passing in the night and they're on the wrong sides of the map, or something like that where it's just, well, he spotted us before we could get there and he's closer to the tower than we are to him, so we can't really do anything.
A pick in the mid lane, another with the first blood for Loki and onto a Hecate. That's kind of the ideal scenario that you can have right now. We also saw an invade go out in the duo lane. Bill of Bill's Goons was able to successfully get the speed invade and gets the red as well. Tough Sunder from Preds was the reason for the yellow buff steal. That's a big first blood, but Scorps are looking for a response. They've got the Ama already in solo looking for Klino. There's the taunt, but the damage is not significant. Klino will go down because that shield, it can still pop.
Yeah, look, just because the damage isn't as much as it was before does not mean it doesn't do damage. That is a really, really clean gank, and that is a great way to try and retaliate, because if you're looking at it, you saw, like you mentioned, one invade, which we might have to hold that thought because we have a belly flop and Loki's over here.
Is not done fighting. Loki wants more blood. A body block in the decoy bought time for the root to hit, but will Davey go down? No. Attention back to Preds, who turns the corner and goes down. Rapio arrived, but safer to walk away after you've already lost another. And the kills are being spread. Luckily for Scorps, this time one goes to the Bacchus instead of maybe the Neath or another to Loki.
Yeah, that's a small reprieve, although Davey being kind of pushed out, definitely going to cause some stress. But that was, I would almost even say it was necessary to get that first gank specifically for Rapio, especially now that another kill has gone up for Bill's Goons. Because you already lost a buff in the jungle, right? Fenrir is going to feel that, but only ever so slightly. It's this kind of presence that you're going to be struggling with. I mean, Kana...
Oh, man.
This Athena is going to be really good eventually, but it's getting to the eventually part, whereas obviously you can see the Mordred can box right now and can do so very successfully. And so being able to start up like this, you need a little more assistance coming in from the jungle. But you also have to mention that first blood in mid lane, because while we didn't get to see too much of what happened, it's a first blood on the Loki, and it puts Gunter behind. And you're talking about a level 5 Anubis now versus a level 4 Hecate, and you're going to be seeing that at all the big power spikes for a little while, because this Hecate just can't really do anything until they get fully caught back up. They're not trailing as far behind now as they were like a minute ago, 2 minutes after or before that when the first blood actually happened, but you need to be able to level it out, and you need to be able to kind of maintain this pace. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is a sit back and farm, especially now that things have gotten a little out of hand for the early game.
It'll be a successful red buff invade from Scorps, or excuse me, from Bill's Goons. Scorps have the answer. They're sending the Amaterasu over towards the Pathfinder buff for Bill's Goons, and that should go away as well. So some jungle flip-flopping out. But Bill might be in some trouble. Some red around. We'll see how aggressive he goes. Right side of the map, stun and dead. No more Kana. And another pickup for the Loki as well. This is a tough start for the Athena. 0-2, but sometimes when you're against a Mordred who already hit level 5 Gore, that 0-2 feels even worse somehow.
Yeah, that really does. I mean, it just sets you back. You're 2 levels down. You're not even level 5 yet, so you don't have your ult available. That, in my mind, is part of the reason you would want to pick an Athena. Admittedly, your level 5 ult is not like the answer to everything, but just having access to it, right? Being able to say, hey, this is a 2v2 in duo right now, right? Well, let's make it a 3v2 and I'll taunt them in. Anything like that is where you're going to succeed. And you're a level and a half, let's call it, behind an experience. You're 0-2, like you said, it's not a good feeling. It also means that Rapio's abilities to come over here are a little more limited. Admittedly, Kana is not going to be the paragon of damage right now. Realistically, if Rapio's coming over here, it is Kana taunt, Rapio kill. That is going to be the 1-2 punch. And so you do still have that kind of presence. But you got to just hope that Kana can stay alive. And at this point, if Kana's the one getting aggressive, that's kind of pretty easy to read, I think, for Klino that something's going wrong or someone might be in the jungle.
What ifs are dangerous to ask, but I almost feel like, and we talked about the flex that the Scorps had in the pick and ban phase. I feel like the flex might be something that saves them, and it's off the call out that you made of how the Athena ultimate could be used. Another, looking to bring the Athena down again. Stun out, damage good, and it works. So that's the third death for Kana, who's been a heavy priority But the later you go, Gore, the Amaterasu in the jungle, that's going to be hitting hard right now. Intelligence, especially since you can go basic attack power and then scale your intelligence, can feel great. You've got the Fenrir support, which most regions are using and making look fantastic. If the Athena can just make it through this laning phase, I'm with you that the Scorps could still have some strong fights.
Yeah, I think a lot of their fights are going to have to now heavily be oriented towards the like level 13 through 15 to plus mark, right? Like, yeah, you can maybe get something done, and again, you kind of be a little aggressive, but it is going to be stuff like this where you're brought up into the sky.
A lot committed on the Clino. Still hasn't died. Others here. Still hasn't died. Finally goes down. Got scary for a moment, but it works out for the Scorps. Loki's still hanging out, though. Might have a pick in hand. Looks for Kana. Finds the damage and gets the killing spree as well. Now the ult finds the stun. Can you get another kill? No way. No way indeed. A shutdown for Preds.
Your right tower.
There definitely seems to be some interesting communication that was going on there for multiple reasons. But if you are looking at it before Other Another dies, you're looking at a solo for solo trade, which is so much more worthwhile for the Scorps, right? I mean, your Athena, no offense, Kana, but is kind of not worth as much as the very successful in lane so far, Mordred on the other side. So you're immediately thinking, you know what? We only lost this 0-4 now Athena to kill off the Mordred who's been kind of bodying lane. Like, that's going to be worthwhile for us. Then you get the kill on Other Another. Again, just it exceeds your expectations. All of that just for the Athena, you feel pretty good about it. The reason I say it feels like there's a miscommunication somewhere along the pipeline is because Bill was in the jungle on the right side, looked like they were coming to solo, and it was around that time, like Bill's, about at the Fire Giant pit. That's when Other Another decided to go back in, gets that first kill, and I think if Bill continues running straight at them, we're maybe seeing another successful gank. Maybe Rapio goes down and we see a 2-for-2 trade, and it becomes a little more... it'd still be in favor of the Scorps, given how the kills have fallen down, but a little more interesting as far as trades go out. Instead, Bill just kind of turned and went the other way, and I don't know if that was like Other Than Another saying, you know what, no, I'm dead, don't worry about it, or if Bill maybe gave up partway through. That's something to maybe look into for Bill's Goons specifically. But otherwise, it gives us this small little reset point. Great couple of kills for the Scorps. Again, it's a fantastic trade. And if you're looking at the grand scheme of things, outside of the fact that your Athena is 0-4, everything else is actually going really well for you. Your Hecate that was behind and First Blooded is now half a level up on the Anubis. And while that hasn't translated maybe as much into the gold, or maybe realistically we're just waiting for Hecate to go back and buy, that is going to give some big power spikes, some necessary power spikes a lot quicker. And suddenly the Scorps are going to be able to take fights that, a minute ago would have been foolish.
A minute ago would have been foolish is the perfect way of wording it, right? Because that was something I was going to point out. We're out of the pause. It's 6-3, but when you look at the gold, that does not look like 6-3 gold. I mean, the differences are so minute. It's jumping up 100 gold every now and again. It's really nothing significant. And for Scorps, that's exactly where you want to be, given how your early game played out. I mean, you have an 0-4 Athena, but you're not looking at a significant loss really anywhere on the map. And like you said, Hecate's ahead. It's kind of impressive from Scorps how ahead they were able to keep with it. And bottom left of your screen, we've got our stats now. You can see XP per minute. It's looking good for Bill's Goons, but it's not significant leads in how much XP per minute they're getting.
This is the one that I was actually most intrigued by. First off, I completely forgot we had stats again this weekend, which feels so nice. But it's this net worth, very specifically the, 800 gold, 900, floating there between 1,000. That Mordred is ahead of Athena. Like, you have a massive lead in solo lane right now in terms of your worth and how much you've accrued. But that's made up for everywhere else on the Scorps, right? Your Athena, Kana, poor Kana, is getting absolutely bodied in lane right now in terms of money and presence. But it does not matter, because while that's been sacrificed, and while there has been a lot of focus from Bill's Goons on the right-hand side of the map, Rapio, Gunter, Preds, and Davey have just been getting the work done elsewhere. And while Davey still trails a little bit in terms of experience, you've got quite a few others that are ahead. I just saw Rapio and Gunter tick over to a level up just now, right? So they're feeling really solid in where they're at. You can see a lot of red heavy towards the top here, outside of the Mordred for the net worth. This is a really good spot to be in for a majority of the Scorps. And for Athena, half of what you're going to be buying is, I just want to be tanky, and then late game I'm a taunt bot, ult bot. Like, I just need to be there for setup.
Dangerous scenario for Clino, or maybe for Scorps if they fight too long. There is a Loki nearby. Loki's here, casting offensive out, Sunders as well. Will the shield from Athena be enough to turn the fight around? World Weaver gonna connect in solo, but can they still find a pick? Bill's Goons, the damage a bit light. A taunt under tower for Clino, almost spelled the end for the Mordred, but the Loki was able to bring down Rapio on that Amaterasu. So a little bit awkward, but it does work out. I'm sure if Clino had stepped a little bit ahead, that would have worked out for Kana. So it doesn't feel great, but overall, 4 kills now for the Loki Gore. That's nothing to be upset about.
Yeah, no, you've got to be feeling good, especially when you're getting kills onto the enemy jungler, right? You have put yourself back in a favorable position. I was talking about it with Trelly last week, but Loki, when he gets to late game, is very, very hard to contend with for pretty much any other jungler. I mean, even some of the best ones. If the Loki is running rampant, he's just going to be able to control the game. That's just how it's going to be. So 4-1-2, like that's a really good spot to be in if you're other another. It also means that you have a little bit more leverage right now. 11 minutes into the game, you realistically are not at nowhere near your max power spikes, right? It's still a lot that can go wrong, but when you're looking at Rapio's build, it does kind of bring in maybe the question of like what the focus is going to be jungle for jungle.
Rapio might be the focus, and the laser secures it. Aim Blue with the first pick of the engagement around the Gold Fury. Breads Ragnarok out, looks for one. You've only got Davey there for now, though. So Scorps are kind of fighting a battle without any help. Now the reinforcements have arrived, but is it going to be too late? Bread still taking a ton. Look how low the Scorps are, but the next kill goes to the Scorps, despite how low they were. Davey able to make it work on that on her. Bill's Goons will pull the Gold Fury, and it looks like they might have an easy time. No, not even that. What a fight then for the Scorps.
Yeah, I mean, that literally might have been one of their best case scenarios. You come in, you only lose one, which, again, it doesn't feel great, but that was through and through a losing fight. Looking at health bars, looking at positioning, it felt like there was no real chance for Scorps to make a play there, but Bill went for a single knockup on one player, and that moment kind of opened everything up, because then suddenly the Scorps just collapse in, they kill another, and now you don't really have any of your chase down potential anymore. They've killed off the people who could chase them. Everyone's just a little low on health, and so you don't really want to go in. So despite the fact that the Scorps are limping away, there wasn't really anyone for the chase, and now if you're Bill, like, this is what you have to do. You have to just stay alive. You have to retreat. And like you said, without even pulling a Gold Fury again, because health bar and damage-wise, they might not have had enough, you're kind of left in this weird open middle ground where you're winning in kills. 8-4 looks really good, but all that gold, all that experience that we were talking about being in your favor is starting to slip away.
Breads gets aggressive in the blue jungle. The Ragnarok onto another who's good as dead.
Good turn.
Davey secures it around. Scorps will take that to start off the fight for sure, and they've got everybody here in this left-hand side if they want to be the ones to pull that Gold Fury, and they indeed are. And no response, it looks like, from Bill's Goons.
And Mordred just used the teleport from base to get back to lane, which means you're not really going to be able to get too much done and have the time to rotate over. And everybody else, like you said, is just kind of wandering around, right, in the jungle. They kind of recognize, look, you've lost a lot of your power. Admittedly, the early lead, a lot of that pressure was coming from the Loki, and now you've lost a majority of that. You're looking at 2 levels for some of these guys. Athena's even starting to catch up, which is absolutely wild for someone who started 0-4. Bill would need to make a steal here, and then some, in order to try and level it out, just on his own. But with an objective, team fights, things like that, all going the way of Scorps, it's not the end of the road, right? It's maybe the beginning of the path for them, right? They dug themselves out of the hole. Now they need to actually start the journey towards victory. But this is a great spot to be. I mean, you're looking at a lot of gold. Davey as well. I mean, look at where the on her is, and then try to find Neath on that, because it took me a little bit. Got over 1,000 gold ahead. You're up 2 levels. We'll call it 1.5, but that's going to start manifesting into a tier 3 item. That's going to manifest into a massive.
No escape for Kana. Bill with the credit. I gotta say, the thing that's jumping out the most to me, we unpaused the 7 minutes. I have to hold that thought. Neath, dead. I can get back to the thought. Anywho, we unpaused the 7 minutes. And it was, I talked about it, it was like 20 gold essentially separating the teams, and it was a 3-kill lead for Bill's Goons. It's 15 minutes, it's a 3-kill lead for Bill's Goons, and it's almost 3,000 gold for Scorps. The objectives keep going their way. They're going to grab a tier 1, which they will trade with the 1 in solo, but given how Kana's laning phase had went, you kind of were waiting for that tier 1 in solo to fall anyway.
Yeah.
If Scorps can just continue to keep clean team fights, this feels like their game to lose, weirdly enough.
Yeah, no, they... I think their comp gets stronger with time. I feel like, again, Loki in a late game scenario in a 1v1 is going to be pretty hard to rival, but I don't know who would be rivaling him and daring to try and fight him in a 1v1. And right now, he's falling behind anyway, so maybe you don't have to worry about his late game 1v1. If you're Davey, you're 3 levels up on the Loki, you get 1 good impale, he might just be dead in the next 2 autos anyway. So there's a lot of setup for you. With other and other falling behind, this is, like you said, the best opening for the Scorps to really get aggressive, and like you said, they've got control of the ball. It just depends on what they can do with it. Where are they making the plays? And so far, it's been nothing but proactive. I mean, the Gold Fury into the Pyromancer, now into your Naga, right? You've got all of these buffs, and it's just now put them onto the map, get the tower, get pressure, get some kills, continue the ball rolling, and then go for a Fire Giant when it's ready.
Quino wants some kills. They're gonna find beads and a Ragnarok, and already down to half health. Other and other not looking great either. The dazzling offensive will find his son of the Quino. Yes, it will, and Preds will take advantage, and the Mordred's already gone. And the rest of Bill's Goons, it's time to retreat. But Bill not gonna get away. Gone to Gunter. Scorps continue to put together awesome team fights. They use the Athena ult, they use the Ragnarok, the dazzling offensive. Sometimes just pressing 4 at the right times is all you need. And the call looks like it's Fire Giant.
And I agree with this. I mean, who's going to step up to try and stop it? I feel like Bill and Klino would have had the best chance for a steal. Maybe Aim Blue, but Aim Blue doesn't even have ult, so you're just going for luck at this point, hoping that you can get the last hit.
Fire Giant down. Scorps looking for the pick, and they'll get the kill onto Aim Blue. Does not look like the Anubis was able to get the steal. So Scorps, the lead grows even further. It's crazy, you know, Smite, right? Smite, am I right? But one team fight for Scorps, and this is it's been entirely different, because we talked about how the game was feeling different, but that last team fight, that cemented that it's now Bill's Goons who are the underdog to come back and win this game somehow.
Yeah, this is a real big switch up, and it really goes to show, and we've had this discussion in the past, but realistically, getting a lead is not the end-all be-all. It's what you do with said lead, right? It is getting, you know, and leading and leaning into it. Scorps, they were behind a couple thousand gold at one point. A lot of that was in solo, things like that. There was never really a big time where it felt terrible for them, because a lot of that was in solo. Meanwhile, this is exactly what you were waiting for. Like, Kana was getting a lot of pressure thrown onto him. Kana's 1 in 5. Kana was never meant to be a carry, right? This Athena falling behind, it didn't look great in lane, and maybe it limited Rapio a little bit, but what is it doing now that we're in team fight phase? Exactly what it was drafted to do.
Yep.
It is pressing 2, and it is pulling people into the fight so that Rapio and Gunter and Davey can hit their shots and can deal the damage. And when it's that
the Athena was level
straightforward,
13 to Klino's level 16.
Yeah.
Look at the levels now.
Yeah.
Klino's still 16, and Kana caught up.
Yeah, I don't really see where Bill's Goons in a grouping are going to be able to. We talked about it. This is a really good dive comp. You have to get past that Athena first, because that taunt is going to ruin your dive immediately. I mean, good luck jumping when you're literally CC'd. And it's not even just that, being able to get taunted into all the damage that they've got lined up. I mean, Hecate and on her at this point are nothing to scoff at. So this really is where you're going to get tested in how well can you dive. It might even need to be like, hey, Mordred, hey, Bacchus, do a little dance jig up front, like distract as much as you can. Let Loki get into the backline. Another is very far behind, has to be farming, but you don't really have time. All of your towers are getting knocked down. There's not really even an opening to try and get into it.
There's nothing to find on the map either.
And so, realistically, I think if you could just pull the front line, if you can kind of bait the Scorps into a fight and let the Loki get into the background and cause some I'm trying to figure out who he would go for, though, because he's 3 levels down on the minimal of who I would want him to target. It is going to be a hard fight. That is really the point. You would need a Neath ult, targeting in, jump in as the Loki, find someone, isolate them, kill them off, and then get out. Like, that's the other big deal. You have to get away so that you can continue farming. Otherwise, you get a little boost and fall behind still. But you can't afford to get caught out. You can't afford to take a fight on your own. So for Bill's Goons, you might just be on the defender's foot for a little while.
The scariest thing about the Athena, I've noticed that the talisman has been getting burned by everything but taunt score. Like, Ragnarok has been burning it consistently. Dazzling Offensive has been burning the talismans that Bill's Goons has. So they've got beads on their team for just mid and ADC, and then the talismans you commit to try to keep everybody safe, they're being burned instantaneously by the worst possible people. There's a Ragnarok, there's a talisman. Now Scorps ready for the fight. Preds did take some poke, but they've got the answer. They've got the Phoenix. Can they find some picks? A decent ult for Kalino, but not decent enough to stop Rapio and Davey. A double kill for the Honor, and the Scorps continue to just be better at fighting this game. Onto the Titan they go, and I don't know if there's going to be an answer from Bill's Goons. They can't even get their Loki back to the fight. He gets soloed by the Amaterasu, and Krakito can just watch that Titan go down.
I think this game can be summed up as one of the best starts for Bill's Goons and one of the best turnarounds for Scorps. I mean, you're in a position, and a lot of it is just where the pressure is being placed. Rapio put pressure on the duo lane. Another put pressure in the solo lane. Athena goes down 0-4. Athena's down over 1,000 gold and 2 levels. And there's a certain point where Athena's tanky and presses 2 and presses 4, and those are the things that you want from your Athena. When your Neath is 2 to 3 levels down, suddenly you're feeling that a little bit more. So I think Rapio's presence on the map and maybe pressure on the map over and left went a little better for them. They did start out pretty well, though. I mean, again, that was the duo lane that stole a buff on Bill's Goons, that got a kill, in the first, 5 minutes in the duo lane as well. Plus, your mid lane was going off pretty well with the first blood. Like, it felt like there was a lot of places. But then Scorps just played it safe. They played under tower. They got the farm down. They controlled the map a little better, which is maybe the even bigger deal. Because about 10 minutes in, we're looking at it. Gold's still even. You've got 1,000 lead in just solo. And yet, we start to see the Scorps pulling ahead because everywhere else is doing more than that. And that's where I think a lot of the maybe the fumble was for them, was they had a lot of good control, but it was keeping that control in those key crucial roles, not just solo, but really maybe forcing mid, forcing your carry up. Those kind of just never happened. Meanwhile, for Scorps, it was happening every chance they got. And then it coalesced into a great team fight.
Exactly. And I think even for me, going all the way back to the draft, I feel like Scorps even did fantastic there. So they really only lost the early portion of game 1. I mean, they made flex. That's why you draft flex for situations like that, and it paid off. But that's game 1 wrapped up and done. We still have a game 2 ahead of us. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back in Smite game with the continuation of the set.
And then I said, that's not Bacchus, that's Bilson's mother. That one always makes me laugh. But enough about my weekend. Hey, Gormizer, what's new with you?
Just picked up my Smite 2 Founders Edition.
Very nice.
Purchased it on my preferred gaming platform just yesterday.
Nice skin.
It's Cacodemon Ymir. It comes with all Smite 2 gods. Forever.
That's very cool, Gormizer, but that's nothing. Look at this. Nightstalker Neath and Ascension passes for 11 Alpha Launch gods. What do you think?
Geez, that is really super. How'd a nitwit like you get so tasteful?
Can't believe that Dandy prefers Chelly's Founders Edition to mine.
Very nice. Impressive. Let's see JMax Founder Edition.
Look at that avatar, badge, and title. The tasteful thickness of Tier 5 Fallen Zeusia. Oh my god, it even comes with Ascension passes for all 23 Alpha gods.
Don't be like this psycho and upgrade your Founders Edition, so you don't miss out on Nightstalker Neath, Tier 5 Fallen Zeus, and Ascension passes for the first 23 gods. Upgrade today.
Welcome back. It's Malum. It's on the road to recovery, Miser. And my first question is, Ascension passes, they're sick. I know you're on the road to recovery. You've been playing with the Fallen Zeus skin. Are we doing better? Are we feeling better?
Actually, you know what? Playing the Fallen Zeus skin really does a lot to help level you out, you know? Like it really does mellow things totally. Admittedly, Trelly kind of had it coming to him because I decided to play Zeus carry the one time that I was thinking of it, and the one that's in my memory. And he kept talking to me about how he didn't like it, and then I did really well. So, you know, who's talking and laughing now?
Yeah, I mean, you guys hear that? You can calm the mentals, and you can perform better even on carry Zeus, so why not grab yourself the Ultimate Founders Edition today? 3 different versions you can grab, and you can upgrade at any time. So you can start out with the Founders Edition, get your Legacy Gems, try out the Cacodemon Ymir skin, and you can upgrade as you see fit, and eventually have all the Ascension passes for the first 23 Alpha gods, and get grinding for your Radiant skins, for your in-game emotes that are so funny. I keep saying this, I'm closer every time I mention on these ad reads. I'm working on my On Her one right now because I really want the On Her Let's Go emote. So that's my grind. Figure out yours today and grab yourself a Founders Edition. And again, congratulations on Gormizer for the road to recovery, and hopefully your Oscar will be in soon too. I'm sure you're still waiting on that.
Oh yeah. Yep, you know it.
You're checking tracking each day.
Just every single day, just waiting to see it. One of them, it'll get delivered one day. We know.
One day for sure. Bill's Goons is Scorps. Anyway, game. We have a job here, and that job is commentating over really exciting EMEA Smite. And game 1 was really interesting because Scorps were able to make a comeback before. Usually when you see a comeback like that from a team, it's after you've already kind of addressed their points they have to hit to make the comeback, Gore. But in game 1, it almost felt like the Scorps got ahead of us. They were like, hey, before you even say it, we know we're back.
Yeah, it really does. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying, where it just feels like the focus from Bill's Goons with the lead didn't result in as much. And realistically, you want to see the big breaking point. I think it was that fight left side around the purple buff. A lot of Scorps got incredibly low, but there was no investment from Bill's Goons to get those kills. And in fact, more died. I think it was another was the last one who went down. It was little moments like that, little team fights like that, but groupings from Scorps that were always successful, while Bill's Goons just weren't able to really convert the lane into a group fight lead. And they never were able to pick up a Gold Fury. They couldn't manifest it into any of the objectives. Meanwhile, the Scorps, guess what? They did every single one of those things. They did pick up Gold Furies. They did go for Pyromancers. They did win those grouped up team fights. And there's a certain point, I would never tell you in any world to lose your lane because then you can group up better. But they had the draft that could lose lane, specifically where Athena was, and still rotate in and get the job done. And it's because your mid laner, after First Blooded, knows the grindstone and got their experience up. And your duo lane, I don't think ever really fell behind at all. In fact, if anything, they were ahead most of the time.
Yeah, Preds was running around feeling so confident on that Fenrir, making plays happen consistently. I mentioned it, even the answers you had for Athena, grabbing 2 Talisman of Purifications, they kept getting burned. They were burned by Ragnarok instantly, always, and if they got through the Ragnarok, they couldn't even save it for a taunt because the Dazzling Offensive is being used to find so many stuns.
Yeah, and realistically, that's the other thing that this team had was high dive, and not just high dive, but you're able to create so many opportunities for yourself. Like you said, Amaterasu can just go in and stun a bunch of people. And while the other team also had high dive, guess what? They jump in. Oh, now you're taunted. Now you're dead. So you needed to be able to kind of hit them in a 1, 2, 3, 4 punch style, which is really hard to do overall when 2 of you are getting CC'd back there, 2 of you are getting CC'd over there.
Well, it all started in the draft. Scorps went super flexible in their picks. We'll see if they do it again. Picks and bans for game number 2 is upon us. And I think the flex potential of their selections, I mean, they had really 4 characters that could flex if you really break it down. 5, really. I'm diving even further. I mean, we've seen a few Hecate supports already in the Founder Series. That kind of draft from Scorps controlled a lot. And we all saw how it worked out laning, and then we all saw how it ended. So now for Bill's Goons, Gore. It's a matter of what do you answer with. The bans stay the same as game number 1, but Scorps with their first pick. Let's see where they go.
Yeah, this is again getting some of the Jing Wei specifically. Baron, I'll be happy if I get to see a Baron. I know last week I think he got through in 1 game, so I'd be kind of ecstatic if we could get him, but I just don't expect it. And I like this priority. Fenrir is just so solid because he's so good in the jungle. He's so good as a support. He's so flexible as a god as well that you could wait, and assuming they don't lock in like a Bacchus immediately,
Athena.
which even then he's flexible. You could theoretically not know where this Fenrir is going until the very last pick for the Scorps, which is a really strong way to start the draft. And again, he just brings so much to the table. He's got good CC, his ultimate is great, he's got a lot of mobility both in and out, good damage, even as a support, and a good ability to chase. So for Scorps, you really did get a kind of all-rounder for your first pick. And the Athena and the Anubis, I like the Athena. I like Anubis as well. I don't know if he needs to be this highly prioritized. It kind of depends on the hands. But I do think just what we saw on Athena, she's going to do what she needs to do. It's just going to take her some time to get there.
I do like taking it away from Scorps for sure. And because, again, that laning phase went really bad for Kana, I think pretty objectively. But everything else looked fantastic on the Athena. Even the ultimate selection, which tends to be sort of you forget about it thing with Athena's, that was fantastic. So taking it away, a good start, but otherwise, Scorps are running back the Amaterasu and the Fenrir and combining with the Loki. So we talked about the flex, and the Scorps are taking the flex route because now you're looking at it and you're saying, okay, well, we had the Ama jungle to deal with last game. Now there's a Loki that presumably would go in the jungle. We haven't seen many Loki mids or Loki solos so far in Founder Series. Bill's Goons, they're saying, all right, well, I guess we just go back to what we're comfortable with.
I'll destroy it. It's quite simple, really.
Honestly, so this is something that I'm really, really worried for. I see a lot of good picks from Bill's Goons, but the Loki, one of the things I was highlighting was not only him doing incredibly well at the beginning of the game, admittedly it's going to be on the other side now, but it was the fact that they got that lead and then didn't really leverage it as heavily as I would have liked. And now you've got Loki on the team that did leverage their lead incredibly well. So I think if the Scorps get off to a good start, that Loki's going to be a very dangerous pick.
And a soul. We talked about it prior to even starting this first set of the day. We were looking to see when Soul would make her first appearance. The changes to basic attack power being its own stat with no base strength for characters in basic attacks, and the revamped minions. It all feels great for Soul. Even laning phase, as somebody who's played a lot of it, I can say, getting your stellar burst across on minions that are actually in a more structured path makes your farming significantly easier. And for somebody as seasoned as an iDavy, this is a very frightening selection, I think, for Bill's Goons. And also, Gore, you made a point of talking about how often we saw Preds rotating on the Fenrir. if you leave a soul alone for a minute, you can kiss your tier 1 tower goodbye if you are Bill's Goons.
A just absolutely powerful split pusher. And again, I'm really curious to see where she stands priority-wise, given some of the changes to the way basic attacks work, and specifically, as we had mentioned, not having like a base strength, but then having a basic attack stat on its own. I want to see her come back, because I do feel like she kind of lost her... Jingwei came out and bullied Soul away. Like, Soul was the crit machine, and then Jingwei is just the better crit machine. So with Jingwei getting banned and some of those changes, I'm excited to see what this Soul has to offer. It also means that you get this interesting mix-up, but now the Ama presumably going back to the jungle, right, and being able to kind of lean on that. Or sorry, maybe going over into solo. Loki maybe being able to go into solo. Like, they have a lot of flexibility. Some of it we've seen in competitive. Some of it we've just seen out there in the Wild West that is playing casuals in Smite 2. So there's a lot of flexibility, I think, for Scorps to make things work. Some of the lanes work maybe a little better than others, right? Alma feels like she could fit as a solo laner, but given what I just saw in the jungle, you could kind of flex it in there and send Loki somewhere else, and I don't think I'd complain too hard. I'd be a little confused. I might scratch my head, but I think that it could be fun. But knowing that you have this magical damage and big bursts of it coming from Soul, plus, like you said, the tower pushing, it makes me really excited to see the Scorps grouped up.
Eyes on flex, eyes on laning phase, eyes in the battleground. We're good for game number 2. So let's head on in, see how things break apart. No crazy stealth grass for 5 members, so much calmer intro. Malum, Gormizer, and Doug for game number 2. Scorps looking to take this one, make it easy peasy, 2 and out. That's what every team hopes for on game day. But Bill's Goons, I'm sure they want to make it a fight. They've got some new selections to try to make it happen. The Bacchus will go solo, the Athena hanging out in support. 2 Sunders for each team, 2 Aegis for jungle mid of Scorps, alongside a Blink for iDavy, which is probably the most striking thing.
Minions.
Yeah, it is not the common relic choice for your carries. Although, and this has been an interesting thing we've seen evolve over the last few weeks, which is really to say the relics have been all over the place. Admittedly, some of it with balance changes, who's better, who's not. But we had Shell at the top. We had Sunder at the top. Now we have Aegis. We've got Blinks, beads. Like, it does feel like it kind of ebbs and flows, like everything will in an alpha. And so seeing the combat Blink makes me think that Davy is recognizing, I've got immunity on Soul. It's built into the kit. If I can blink and create distance, that immunity will be enough to get me out of everything else I'm worried about.
Jungle buffs on the red side of the map will be split. Pred stuck around, used their Sunder on the Pathfinder buff, but a nice taunt Sunder combination from Bill kept it away from the Fenrir on the steal. Trouble for Kana once again early. Level 2 first for Klino, but not quite going aggressive for the kill early on. The eyes on that Sasano and the Loki. It looks like they're both rotating right early and will even run into each other. The Soul lane already a point of action for these 2 teams.
I really do love to see how aggressive that they're... Honestly, both of them are getting, just because of the way they've been playing. I do feel like these teams, more than anything, are going to leverage a lot of this early game. I'm still keeping my eyes on this Loki, especially because, well, right now he's laying in wait for a gank, but really, I just think that that's where a lot of the early pressure could show up. It's just where Rapio's able to find it, because you don't have the easiest targets. Anubis is maybe the easiest target, but all it takes is one wrap and suddenly the gank dies. And when you look over towards Duo, unless your duo lane is pulling Neith's backflip or forcing Krikito to an awkward position, like super pushed up, it's not exactly the easiest gank to have either. Same with the Bacchus. I mean, you just belly flop back to tower range and you're fine.
There's the counter of the Belch with a silence and some damage on 2. If Klino flops aggressively, Rapio will go button. Still no flop out. Now Kana chasing out. Honestly, Klino maybe even aware of Rapio with how little we've seen the flop use. Asano rotating over as well, and Loki's committed to the back. Now Kana is alone at the totem of death for Kana. A first blood goes to Klino. Very well played by Bill's Goons.
Yeah, just an unfortunate scenario, and there's not much you could do. Like, hindsight, you can say, oh, Rapio, if only you hadn't backed, you could have been there, but Rapio was losing so much farm just by hanging out in the jungle with no fight starting up that there was no real good spot to be in. And like you said, until Clino uses the belly flop, you just don't feel like you can go in and be successful because you waste any of your abilities on that. Clino just jumps away and then you have nothing. Versus the other side where suddenly it's like, okay, I'ma dash, do whatever. Susano can just teleport to you if he does it well. And another, in fact, does it well. You get the extra damage coming in from Clino, and it's just a really well-timed gank for Bill's Goons, and a really unfortunate scenario for Scorps that things fall apart the way they do.
Another pickup, this time a solo bolo coming out. Or was it? Yeah, no ultimate for Krakito. I had to make sure the Neath ult was down, but it still was, so a true clean solo. Asunder onto Krakito will be enough, so Preds finds their own. That's a big-time pickup for Fenrir, and a good use of the Sunder. That damage has been nerfed a lot. The Preds making it look as strong as ever.
And just good presence of mind, especially to do this. I mean, you're staying aggressive now. Gunter is able to rotate over. You might not only be able to invade here, but with Davey coming in, you might get a kill.
Especially with how low Bill was in terms of levels and in terms of HP. The pullback, not good, doesn't matter. Davies got it. Aim Blue goes down. A great start to the game for Scorps and Duo. It's not even done. A Ragnarok on the Neath who just got back. Another finds Kana in solo. Krakito will get away in duo, but this is a wild start to a game.
Yeah, I'd put the get away maybe in quotes. That really does, like, you stay alive,
yeah,
but you get knocked back to base. That's more experience towards Davey, who, by the way, is 1-0-2 now, which feels great. Yeah, you lose your Ama over on right. And so I will give credit where credit's due. Bill's Goons, I think, read the situation. If you're going to get smacked on left because you don't have the numbers, you got to find pressure elsewhere. That's exactly what they do. And you get a kill. Another now has one. You've got two for Clino. That feels pretty solid. But we're falling into the same trap that we fell into in game one. Ama is going to be maybe a little more farm heavy and maybe XP related and reliant than the Athena Kana was on. But Kana still has the same goal late game, which is I'm going to go in, I'm going to CC, and then I'm going to be a tank. I'm going to disrupt.
The autos from IDV are hitting real hard. Preds takes the fight. The stun is out. Rapio is here, and the damage is on to Bill. And there's no more Bill. Just the Goons remain for the time being. Another great fight from Scorps. There's one thing you cannot deny. The team fighting of Scorps looks second to none. And it sets up so much. I'm going to be watching the Soul personally, Gore. I just feel like Soul right now is so underrated. She hasn't been touched balance-wise in too long, but items that work for Soul have been. She's in a great spot for this. Oh no, Krakito. Supernova out, damage on. Preds holding the go button. Krakito now gone. Little chomp.
Little chomp. And you know what? Sometimes a little chomp's all you need. And this is where, honestly, the speed of this game is what's probably going to get out of hand for Bill's Goons. It feels like they found some small successes in certain positions, but I'm looking more than anything at the Athena, who's still 2 levels down on the Fenrir, and the 3-level lead that Davey has now. I mean, look, it is not unheard of to see a 3-level lead for the carries, but you're usually talking like 18 to 15, not 8 to 5, right? Like Davey, this early game has gone so incredibly well. Krakito pretty much does not exist. As far as we're concerned, Krakito right now is someone who will press 4 and will click and will hope somebody can get that kill. That's where your farm's going to come.
And even now it might tickle because you're so far behind in levels. Davey almost said that's my purple. Doesn't actually get it away. So small baby victory at this point for Krakito, who just needs to get farm on line. I did want to call attention also. The Kana passive, Gore, has not kicked in. Kana's passive doesn't kick in until they're 0-4 in lane, from what I've seen.
Oh yeah, no, that's honestly, that feels like it's been true for years, right? Meanwhile, the rest of the team passive has kicked in. They've got the damage. Admittedly,
Shield
that Sunder did a lot of damage, but yeah, like you said, the shield is more than enough to get you out alive. But just look at the proactive play right now from Scorps. I mean, if you got to praise something, you got to praise this. I think Bill's Goons are doing a great job not letting things kind of roll over them. but there's only so much you can do to slow this whole thing down.
You gotta find your way of controlling the map in a way that almost sections off you a farming zone. That was something I noticed watching a lot of the APAC region in particular. They do this thing where Sunday School is a team I'm thinking of. They kind of lock down areas of the map and they lock it down as their zone. And if you travel in that zone, you get picked off. So you gotta find elsewhere to farm, and they now have their farm area. A taunt on to Gunter, a World Weaver 2, and a laser. What if I told you none of that has equal to death quite yet? The Typhoon finally adds to the equation, but it bought time for Preds to show up and bring down another. And Rapio is ready to step up with the Fenrir. The fight is on. Aim Blue life stealing quite a bit, but there's a damage out from Loki, but a two-man taunt in from Bill. Is that enough to turn the fight around? Positive for Bill's Goons? Yes, it is. Rapio goes down. Next up would be Preds. Is there a wrap? No, so Preds gets away.
Which means that's a wrap all around. It's really, again, well played by Bill's Goons to recognize that. And you get, that's just unfortunate, especially that we caught it on camera. But Krito going down. Sorry, man. Hero 3, you're down 2 levels. We'll see what happens in the future.
Never cast me in ADC. That would break my spirit.
It is.
Your right tower is under attack.
So well played for Bill's Goons in mid. I have to look past the Neath thing just now, because admittedly, you are not. I keep acting like they're super far behind, and admittedly, in some places they were. But they've caught up, and that last fight does a lot of heavy lifting to get them back into that position. And putting pressure on mid, like, this is big for them.
Will Gunter go down? Gunter's been an escape artist for the most part, and this time it works again. Preds brings down Bill, and Gunter is safe. Preds is still fighting, trying to buy time for Rapio to have an entrance. Kana's here as well. Dowsing offensive out. The laser will kill Preds. No, it will not, but Kana certainly gets their own off of Aim Blue. 9-5 now for the Scorps. They look fantastic in team fighting. I mean, the fact Bill's Goons have kills and aren't 5k, 10k gold down at the 10-minute mark, that almost feels impressive with how Scorps have been fighting.
We're looking, or at least I'm keeping my eyes on power spikes more than anything.
Oh no, don't walk back! Anyway.
So yeah, I'm keeping my eyes on items more than anything, and the thing that will maybe stand out the most, if you ignore the fact that Davy's up 3 levels and the Neath is 0-4, is the fact that the jungles are still kind of tied up. In fact, in farm, Other and Other's doing incredibly well, and I feel like the Susano can keep up pretty well with the Loki. It also feels like he's been very proactive, very much helping choose and start a lot of these fights. Admittedly, a lot of it has been trying to punish Preds, because Preds doesn't seem to know when too much is for the Fenrir diving. But realistically, it's a good spot to be in for the top half of the red team. And so if Bill's Goons can kind of leverage that, lean on the Anubis, lean on Other the Another, let Klino be the engage. And admittedly, the same thing I said last time, where Athena's just kind of I'm going to dash in, press 2, and then somebody please kill who I grab. As long as you've got that, and I'm looking at Other and Other and Aim Blue as the ones to do the killing for that, you're pretty well off. It's when the duo lane gets involved that things are going to start falling apart, because Davy is a monster right now. Davy has a massive lead in items. Davy has a massive lead in levels. Davy's going to be doing a lot of damage. And it's kind of making me think, Soul might need to be higher prioritized.
Yeah, Davy's a couple gold away from finishing a 3rd item on the Soul. 2 fights, 1 solo, 1 duo. The one in solo, a 2v1. Kalina, a lot of health. How much time will buy out from it? There's a Sunder for good measure. The knock-up. The assassinate. Something's got to kill eventually, right? Right? Kalino finally goes down. The fight in duo did fizzle out as well. Looks like Bill's Goons thought better of trying to compete with iDavy.
There's just, man, there's only so much you can do, right? When you have that many people surrounding you, Klino. I think early on was in a good spot to disengage. That's a lot harder the longer the game goes, because tower diving becomes a little easier for everybody involved. Although right there, you didn't even need it. And so having to run around in circles, having to try and stay alive, that's going to be big for you. Hop on the Gunter. I don't know if this goes their way, though.
Typhoon damage will hit, but it was pretty minuscule. But the laser is anything but. See ya, Gunter. A great pickup for Aim Blue. All right, did you see the self-healing for the Amaterasu just now on the stats? We haven't had the stats. That's new for this weekend, and my goodness. That's crazy.
1 in 3, by the way, does not seem to matter. I don't know if Kana's going to get killed for a little while. And by a little while, I mean maybe the foreseeable future. Unless Kana puts himself in a really, really bad spot. I just don't know if there's going to be as much to really leverage it. Very similar to the last game, where it's just you've got the items now, right? And admittedly, it's not like you've done anything insane overall, and you're still going to have some good damage.
Yeah. It's just about finding where you can put it, right?
I just don't know that they're going to be able to stop you the way that they want to. Anubis is definitely a big threat. A Rapid and a Ult is going to do so much damage.
Bill in a lot of trouble. That's how much. A pickup for Preds, the 6th kill for the support on the Fenrir. Aim Blue, okay for now. The Spell Leader does a good chunk, but the lifesteal to start things off kept Aim Blue a bit safer. The fights continue to look strong. It's now a 6-kill lead for Scorps, and perhaps more importantly, we're working on a lot of gold. 42,000 to the 37,000 Bill's Goons. Levels as well, a scary conversation. Kana's caught up to Klino, similar story to game number 1. A 2-level lead for Rapio, 3 for iDavy. Earlier, Gore said we've yet to really see iDavy be involved in team fights. Well, we're getting closer and closer to that phase, Gore, and I don't think it's been much more positive. When Soul's there, if I'm Bill's Goons, I'm trembling.
Yeah, that's it's the ever-looming threat. Also, I have to give a shout-out to Preds, because this Fenrir has been absolutely insane. He's 6-0-3 right now. And admittedly, I feel like should have been punished once or twice for some of the things he's been doing. But the fact that he's gotten away, it has led maybe to some teammates dying. But if you ignore that part and focus on the positives, he's been looking great. You're playing very aggressive as well. And I actually really appreciate that for the Fenrir. You've got a lot of self-healing on this god, and a lot of capabilities to stay in, and you can do exactly that. I mean, you just pick people up, you force beats, and now you force a fight.
And you force a death of Aim Blue, making Preds unstoppable. And the rest of Scorps, they might look the same as this fight continues to go well. Dropping like flies, a double for Preds. The last standing gonna be Klino. For how much longer? The Talisman bought you a second, and yeah, we'll see you. And it looks like Bill's Goons not feeling confident, calling it quits into Scorps. So a 2-0 for Scorps.
I mean, I'm going to be honest, I didn't necessarily see an easy path for them out of that.
I don't know if I saw an F6 path, though.
I don't know if I saw an F6 path either. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. It's like, I don't know if you needed to cut it completely.
Yeah, those mentals have to have been in a tougher spot, because like you said, I don't think it was that bad.
And it's more and like you said, I think the mental comes into the equation, because like, it would have been hard work. It would not have been hey, you know what, guys, we've got this. Let's just wait, for 2 more levels. Like, it was going to be rough. Davey getting involved in any of those fights immediately made it rougher, just because of the lead that you had in duo. But the all-arounder for it was having to look on defense, potentially let a couple of objectives go, look at Phoenix defenses. And I could understand that where, especially after game 1, you probably maybe were just thinking, we don't have it in us. Like, you know what? We've checked. Don't got that dog in us. We can't hold on. Yeah. We can't fight back.
Yeah,
and
Scorps had the dog.
Really, and that dog was doing insane work. I mean, Preds, the jump in, the control, the level of play and nuisance that support was getting. Like, I always described it like when you look at Smite 1, the best supports were always described as annoying. That's what Preds was that game. Preds was constantly going, constantly causing damage or stuns or picking you up, forcing your relics. Like, no matter what, Preds was being proactive, and even if it didn't result in a kill, it resulted in something that they could then leverage in the next minute and a half to really lean on. And unfortunately for Bill's Goons, it just meant that there was no real escape from this Fenrir.
I don't know. That really shocked me. Like you said, I didn't think they were out of it. Bill's Goons just didn't seem out of that fight. Mm-hmm. The worst situation they had going on, I think, was the team fight now that Soul had begun to rotate, because how much Soul had really done. But I don't know. I feel like we've seen crazier things happen than a comeback from a 7,000 gold lead and a few kills and a 3-4 level lead in experience for the ADC. I mean, we can look at the stats and see what we see from it. And I almost feel like what we're looking at gold wise in particular doesn't really, I don't know. I just don't think it was that bad of a scenario. We've seen much worse games not be F6 where
Yeah.
sometimes even than the back of the casters' brains at those moments, they might be thinking it where they haven't been. And then there's even been comebacks in that scenario.
I will say 1,200 gold for the jungle, and then over 2,000. I mean, almost 2,600 if my math's correct there for Navy in the lead. I can definitely see where a lot of that pressure is coming. 8-0-4 for Preds as well. While the damage, is Fenrir support damage. Realistically, you're looking at someone who was able to continually put pressure on a lot of the things that Preds got, not just in kills, which I'll say maybe you could have spread that love a little bit. I understand where it's coming. You're getting last hits. It's not the end of the world. And in fact, for Preds, he was there for a majority of the health bar anyway. But being able to find all that, a lot of what you were getting from Preds outside of just the kill count was a lot of utility and pulling things, again, like the beads, any CC immunity, taking a lot of the CC actually from the very beginning. I mean, if you're getting wrapped, you're Fenrir, you're surviving, and then guess what you get to do? Free cast while your team free cast. They don't have to worry about the taunt. They don't have to worry about the wrap because it was already used on you. They've got 12 seconds of free time that they can get aggressive with you now. And so Preds, there was a lot of play on field that opened things up just absolutely wide for the team to get aggressive in mid. And then when you look at duo, like Davey, they got that early lead because of some fights and some good ganks. And then it just solo kill, and to the point where you're up 3-4 levels. Like you didn't have a care in the world at that point.
Well, we hit on the big stuff of that game. It feels like there could have been a fight from Bill's Goons, but they just didn't feel the same way. Scorps, though, they get the 2-0 regardless of how it went down. So bracket-wise, where does that put us, Mr. Malm? Well, I will show you. Thanks, production. Right in time, too. Scorps 2-0, so they move to the playoffs. They have quite a bit to rest and relax. Not as much as Team Risk and Team GG got to have, but plenty of time to rest and relax and watch the rest of the Founder Series continue to prepare for playoffs. For Bill's Goons, that puts them towards that 2-2 part of the bracket where the next time we see them play, it's either you advance to playoffs or you're down to last chance qualifier. So we'll have to hope that Bill's Goons hits the tape and sees what they can improve. But that's not all for our games today. Still some more EMEA to go. So let's take a look at the schedule and see what is up next. That was our 11 a.m. game on the left-hand side of your screen, Bill's Goons versus Scorps. And if you look right below that, you see Saturday, 1 p.m. That's Tithonic versus Yodi Gang. That is coming up next. And credit to game one. It was a good back and forth game with a great comeback, but I feel pretty confident in saying that Tithonic versus Yodi Gang will be a much more enjoyable game than that game too. It's just tough to see how it goes down, but
yeah,
I will say one thing I respect about calling it there is at least you knew your limit for that matchup and you get more time to review. I guess that's a positive too.
Yeah. And again, some of the other maybe benefits of it is the fact that where they are in standings, right, means that it's not like everything's over for you. It just means that everything's a little harder for you.
It's literally GG go next.
Yep. And so I'm curious to see what Bill's Goons are going to do in the future, but I'm happier to see the Scorps do it exactly what they needed to do today. They came out, they played incredibly well. I think this is a team, and if I remember correctly, we were looking at it, and I was looking at like their path through Swiss, and I was kind of surprised to see where they were. There's a couple teams like that. I mean, in North America, Borscht is in a very similar position where it's just kind of like, man, you're not, things have gone a little different for you than I would have expected. And it's just because there was so much good competition up front, and the matchups being random means that you could face the number one seed right out the gate. And even if you give a really good fight, you still get knocked down to the 0-1 area and things like that. So being able to see the Scorps, push their way through to this part of the bracket, find their way forward. This is a team I have a lot of high hopes for, and a team that I'm going to keep my eye on, especially as we go towards like playoffs, towards the knockout land, and then eventually, all the way to Vegas.
And watching how Scorps react to the meta, because clearly they were a team that came in a step ahead meta-wise, and they made it work. The Soul is the biggest example, but you can even look at the Athena. But a great 2-0 for Scorps, and that's going to do it for our first set of the day. We are not done. We'll be back at 1 p.m. Eastern time for the next matchup for EMEA for the Swiss stage. So until then, don't go anywhere. Get a comfy seat, and we'll see you soon.